to make sure everybody can hear me okay. I just want to thank everybody for coming to our meeting today. Right now, my schedule from the secretary, she said we have 34 people here today, which is the most we ever had in my 11th year of doing TRIAD. And people ask me, when are you going to stop? I said, don't ask me because I don't know. And I'm not looking forward to it either. It's too much fun to do, and it's very easy for me to do them because I know enough of people and I can get along with people very well, so it's not hard for me to find speakers. It's sometimes it's difficult having enough months in the year to get them all on. So anyway, so sometimes I have to switch the speakers around. But eventually we'll get there. I know Kathy Lenato, who's here, she's been on 3 times, but I had to switch her off, so she hasn't been a speaker. But Kathy, you will be a speaker very shortly. And I want to say hello to our Plymouth County Sheriff, Joe. And so what else do we have here? Raise your hand. Yes, we have a realtor over here. I see her once in a while at Stop and Shop. That's going to end, I guess, pretty soon. So anyway, we'll get going with the meeting, but thank you very much for everyone coming to this particular meeting. We have the speakers, the various speakers we have for September and October and November. The speaker that, can you still hear me all right? The speaker that we have in December, we're going to have the regular offices if needed, and a Christmas party, which has been in many years, we will continue to have. So the only speakers we're going to have for our Christmas party will be ourselves. So we'll be speaking to talking about that meeting in December will be for just what we normally have. It won't be for a general speaker. Before we start with our speaker this morning, Fred Corrigan, I want to let you know the speakers are for the September, October, November people. September 10th, that's the meeting date. You'll notice that our meeting for that month will be on September 10th. There are 2 reasons for that one. One is that the regular meeting date would be September 3rd. And when you get to a holiday weekend, you don't really get too many people because they're on vacation or they're coming back from where they are. So September 3rd would not be a good date to have a meeting in September. The other reason would be that I'm not going to be around. No, my wife and I will be up in Lincoln, New Hampshire, and we'll be coming home the following week. And the reason we got screwed up on that is someone that changed our vacation by 4 weeks. We normally go up there the first part of August, and my wife saw the change on her cell phone. Go out places. I don't look at the cell phone. I don't use it everywhere. So anyway, she saw that the week was changed to August, the last week in August, which goes into the holiday. And I don't like that because I don't like driving up to Lincoln from here on that Labor Day weekend because the traveling on that Friday is wicked. So I'm suggesting we go up on Thursday and stay one night somewhere, then go over there after. I don't know. But anyway, so that's the reason for the changes in August.
Oh, excuse me, Ken. Ken, we have a little surprise that we'd like to do now for you, if that's okay. We have a little surprise for you.
You know?
Yes, can we do you want to do it now?
Yes, and I in recognition of your many years of leadership and advocacy to the public safety and senior citizens' rights with Halifax TRIAD, and in celebration of your 90th birthday. The entire membership and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all your endeavors. It's given today, the 6th day of August, and I know your birthday is the 11th.
Yes.
Signed by the Speaker of the House, Ron Mariano, and myself. Happy Hanatra. Happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much, Kathy.
You are so welcome.
And we will be having you for us speaking. And
I look forward to it.
and getting a bunch of questions ready for you.
So that's what I like.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for inviting me, and I want to thank Joe Schofield.
Joe's right here.
It was Joe's birthday, August
I
2nd.
know. Can you just say happy birthday to Joe as well? Happy
I don't want more people to aggravate, so I'll be here another year.
We'll be waiting for your partner.
Yeah.
Well, I thank Joe for inviting me, making sure that the DA and I both had invites. Unfortunately, now the DA, I was with him yesterday. He is off to, I think he's Washington D.C., the National Black Prosecutors Association. So he is poised to take over the reins as the president of the National District Attorneys Association. Yeah, so that's a big deal, and I think that it's going to make it, those meetings that we get to do have with Tim are going to be very special for us, because he's going to spend a lot of time on the road, a lot of time in Washington, D.C., and hopefully, he's going to get some good work done with the national DAs. I know it's a big concern to all of us, so we appreciate that. And hopefully, the ladies will carry back to Tim that we miss him, and we'll keep him in our prayers, and hopefully things go well. So I don't have a proclamation, but I did bring something that is perhaps a bit more practical. I brought a hat. And as I grabbed the hat and I ran out the door this morning, it reminded me that I'll get him home with the tag on so he knows it's new. But secondly, I just got back from vacation with Mom and Dad. Both of my parents are still with us, and we all went on vacation. And we did the Tennessee River, and we did a lot of, not the Mississippi, but we did the Tennessee, and we did the Cumberland River. So we were in a lot of those southern states down there, and it ended up in Nashville. And if people know Nashville, the big cancer hospital down there was built by none other than Minnie Pearl, who used to keep her hats. You might remember her, the comedian, yeah. So we're going to keep that on there. In honor of Minnie Pearl, maybe we'll ask you to wear that with the tag on. But happy birthday and many more.
This guy here, I think a lot of Joe, the county sheriff. A lot of times I'll say to Joe, I wish you'd do something that I want you to do. I want you to fill that jail up with people who should be in it. Joe, you're on empty cells. I don't know why there's so many empty cells and so much going out to the road. Maybe the chief.
Subject for us to cover. I'll come back as a speaker and I'll go over the population numbers and just how things are going on the correctional side of the house. There've been a lot of challenges on the legislative side. I do want to especially thank Kathleen, because she's so good about calling and asking what our position is in law enforcement on these bills. And God bless her, she votes the right way. So I appreciate that. I appreciate her and everything she's done. And maybe we can come back together and talk about some of these things.
Well, it's good to see you, Joe. I miss Tim not being here. Both of you usually together when you're doing things. And both of you are great guys. You and Tim are just perfect. And I told you and Tim, you're welcome to come to our meetings anytime. You don't have to be a speaker. Just come when you have time and be part of our speaking. Because you deserve it. What you do?
I'm a better listener than a speaker, so.
Okay, so, thank you. Well, where I find my spot where I stop here.
The microphone.
Ken,
There we go. Thank you, guys. Does everybody hear me now? How about now? Is it okay? Okay, I was going to say we'll continue with the speakers that will be coming up. The October meeting will be on the 1st of the month. And our speaker for the month will be a Mr. Blake Demas, who will be a speaker of the magic of butterflies. This person was doing a great section over in Kingston just a while ago, and I got a hold of him. He said that he'd be glad to do the Halifax TRIAD subject. So he will be here on October 1st. So that will be a good one to have. He will be discussing the various butterflies that live in Plymouth County. The month of November, which will be on the 5th, I hope to have the Halifax Fire Department put on a presentation, because there's a couple of things that we'd like to have when to go in, which would be probably with some of the paramedics. And then we also want to have the fire department do a presentation, which might have to be done at the station out back, and that's the people are asking to get, how do you work these fire extinguishers when you have to have them done quickly? What's the first thing you do with them? So I asked the chief if we could have that done. One time we had that years ago, and it was done in the back of the fire station. They had the fire going out there, and you would get this fire extinguisher and he'd show you how to work, but actually put out a fire. So we'll see how that goes.
Ken. I just wanted to let you know that November 5th is National Election Day, and that you might want to think about that with the scheduling of that meeting.
Which one is that?
The presidential election.
November 5th. November
Yeah.
5th?
I just wanted you to know now so that you could plan. Like,
Right. Well, see, I haven't seen anything yet out on which the voting's going to be, or the dates or anything yet. As well, it's kind of early for it.
yeah, it's election day.
But if there is a problem, then we have to change it. We can do that very easily. Right now, I want to have one of our members, been a member of TRIAD for many months, and it's Fred Kerrigan. Fred is going to speak today. He's been a little boy up in New Hampshire for many years, so I asked him if he would like to do a special on how is it like living in New Hampshire, around Washington up there, as a little boy, and he said, I can do it. So he has pictures all around, so Fred, you want to make?
Thank you very much. I think you all can hear me. Can you? Is that a problem? Or are we good? Okay, good. As a little boy growing up in the White Mountains, and I was a little boy then, maybe 8 years old now. This is back in the 1930s and 40s. So I've got some stories to tell about the White Mountains in northern New Hampshire, up in what they call Colas County in New Hampshire. And we'll start first off, this top picture on the left-hand side. See that white cap? That picture was taken in September. And we're going to go across to the right. That picture was taken in May. And this is not unusual up there in the White Mountains. But you can see the white caps 8 months out of the year. It's a short summer, trust me. But at any rate, it's a beautiful spot. I grew up in a little town called Randolph, New Hampshire, which is on Route 2, up in Coos County, 200 miles north of here. In that little 3-room house with 5 people, mom, dad, my brother, and my sister. A picture of that house right now is a garage, because I never had a picture of the house. We left there too early. I was only 10 when they left that house. But at any rate, that house was turned into a garage at one of my relatives on the Pascal side. And her greatest joy, after that house was moved down the lower road, her greatest joy was telling the other people in town, I got the only garage with wallpaper on the wall. And she was thrilled. So there it is next to the Pascal house. And when you get up here, after I get done talking, there are little notations under each picture, and you'll see the difference in size of that little building, which was probably about 20 by 24 and had 3 rooms. The living room across the front of the front door. You walked to your right when you went in, you went into the kitchen, you went to the back, you walked to the back of the kitchen, there's the back door, take a sharp left, and that's the only bedroom in the house, where my mom and dad and my baby sister slept, my brother and I slept on a pull-out couch in the living room. Now, of course, sleeping on a pull-out couch in the living room did not bother our evening at all. Because what? Everybody went to bed. We didn't have TV. There's no power. What else are you going to do? You go to bed early, you get up early. And that's the way of life out in the country. But what did we have, even though we didn't have running water, no electricity? The outhouse was 75 feet up towards the woods. The water came from a spring, which was probably 150 feet back up into the woods. What did we have? That picture right there. When you stepped out on the front porch, not porch, we didn't have a porch. Stepped out on the front steps of our house every day. Going to take the school watch the weather. There was the view of the presidential ranch. And you got to see that view every day. I went to school in Randolph, which is only a little town of about 300 people. Today, it still only has about 300 people. That one little schoolhouse had all grades. One teacher. Same teacher my father had. And when she retired a couple of years after I left that school, I went to first grade there. A couple of years later, they had closed that school. She had been there 33 years. With all of those grades, teaching all of those children, in some cases, parents of some of her students, and children of others, almost a grandchildren. Anyway, let me tell you about a little incident that you wouldn't hear about today. We were sitting, just as you're sitting here. Only the little children were in the front of the room. The blackboard was there. The teacher was addressing his little brothers. And then the rows of students up to the oldest children. And there was another set of blackboards across the back of it. So the teacher would start giving us I was 4 and a half when I started in first grade. Actually 4 3/4 years old. So I was young, there was no kindergarten. So I was in first grade, sitting right in the first row. Teacher had given us our assignment after she gave us a little lesson. Maybe I was calling, who knows what I was doing. But there was a standing rule. When the teacher is in the back of the room or behind you teaching, you do not turn around and be nosy and see what's going on. Okay? That's not proper. She's teaching the 4th grade, the 5th grade, the 8th grade, whatever. All of a sudden, here I sit, coloring the water, and there's a commotion in the back of the room, and I turn just in time to see this teacher grab this bigger student who was actually bigger than she was, grabbed him by the shoulder, spun him around, took the heel of her hand behind his head, stuck his nose into that blackboard. She spun him back around. The blood was reaching down off of his nose, and he sunk to the floor. And she said to his 2 brothers who were standing there, "Pick up Johnny, take him out and wash him up and get him back here in the class." And that was the end of that discipline. And you know what? I think I was probably 4th or 5th, no, it was 4th grade, before I realized that you don't cross the teacher because you could be part of the blackboard. Different world, different time. We know those things don't happen today, or we don't think they do anymore. But remember now that this one teacher, how many students of all different ages, and she had to be the authority because was there a principal in that one-room school? No, of course not. Was there a superintendent? No. He was a roving superintendent. You might stop by once a month and say, "Hi, how are you? What's for lunch?" But anyway, and that school had an outhouse. There was a pump in the kitchen area, so you could pump water in there. But there was no electricity. So we lived with the basics. Now, up here on the top, that black and white photo, what's the bearing there? That is a 3-foot log. So that means as it lay there, it's this high. How did it get there? That's me at 7, my sister at 5½, sitting up on top of that log. The reason I put that up there was because back then, we're talking early 1940s, you didn't have a chainsaw. You didn't have a crane to pick up that tree and put it up on a truck. What did you have? You had what they call a 2-man crosscut saw. The crosscut saw was about the depth of my hand, with teeth in it, 6 feet long, a handle on both ends. And to cut that into 12 or 8-foot or 10-foot logs, you had to have 2 men. Each grabbed a handle. This guy pushed over, and that guy pulled. And then you pulled back, and he pushed, until you got down through that log. But now realize, how did that tree get on the ground? It had to come the same way. So now these men had to bend over and do this push and pull motion until they got through that 3-foot base. This is not a 5-minute tree drop, I can tell you right now. And that was a big piece of lumber my father had milled out so we could add an extension on the house. That's the reason for that photograph. Also, you'll notice the attire, the coveralls. This was a winter picture. Now, even though it was a small town, right there in Randolph, our campus, and that's the Jefferson View campus, because you could see Mount Jefferson. And across the road was the Mount Washington campus. And those cabins were there back in the 30s. They've been renovated. It's now a small hotel. And here's a little town with 300 people, and they got 2 sets of cabins and a motel. Does that tell you that tourism is one of the main businesses up there? And then the next picture is in Jefferson, which is the next town over. And that is the Water Wheel Restaurant and Maple Sugar House. And if you go up there into Jefferson, and I'm sure there's people in this room that have been to Santa's Village in Jefferson, New Hampshire. And I see the heads waving. Well, this little kid remembers Santa's Village when it wasn't there. And in fact, the guy that did it went to my grandfather, Corrigan, and said to him, and his name was Fred, said, "Fred, how would you like to join me in an adventure?" He said, "What kind of adventure?" My grandfather was road supervisor for the town of Randolph. He had all kinds of construction equipment along with his sons. He said, "I'm thinking of building a Santa's Village there in Jefferson, and I need to have part of that land excavated, trees cut, all of this stuff." My grandfather says, "I'm not interested, forget that noise." And he walked away from that deal. I wouldn't be standing here today, I'd be out there watching Santa Claus. The other thing with Santa's Village, and you've been there, and here's the parking lot in front of Santa's Village, there's another parking lot across the road. That parking lot, when I was 11 years old, my brother and I, was now, let's see, 35, 46. This was just at the end of World War II. We were picking beans for the government out of what used to be that, what is now that parking lot of Santa's Village. And then got paid so much per bushel. I don't even know if I got through a bushel at that age. But we didn't make much money, I know that. We were picking beans that were sold for government food programs. We don't have many of them today where you go picking beans. From there, in this picture right here, the greatest picture right there, you'll see the caption down below that. It says, "How many of these utensils can you identify?" That's on the wall of that Waterway restaurant. And I took that picture. And it's just kind of interesting. Take a look at it and look at the different things that are there and see if you can identify with each one of those utensils. The next picture. Great for moose. You can save your life. These signs are all over Coas County. And why? Because in the last 5 years, there's been an average of 68 collisions between moose and vehicles. An average of 68 collisions every year in the last 5 years. So when you see one of those signs, if you're up there and you're going to Santa's Village or whatever you're going to do, be very, very careful because the moose are still up. And if you have one of them land on the hood of your car or your pickup truck, let's hope it's just the moose that expires. Because many of these accidents, neither the driver or the moose makes it. This little sign down here is in Gorham, New Hampshire. Now, Gorham, New Hampshire is not very far. If you keep going down Route 2, you'll end up in Gorham, Maine. But from Gorham back to Randolph, back to Jefferson, back to Lancaster, that's a 23-mile trip. Everything you're seeing here and everything I'm talking about today happened in that 23 miles. Now realizing, I want to make sure I got my figures here for you. There's 2,200 people that live in Gorham, 300 in Randolph, 1,100 in Jefferson, 2,400 in Lancaster. That's a total of 6,000 people in that 23-mile stretch. 6,000 people. That's like 23 miles, that's like going from here to Boston. And Halifax. Stop and put that into perspective for the fact that we call our old town of Halifax as 7,700 people. So put that up against 6,000 over that 23 miles. You've got towns up there where per square mile is 21 people live per square mile. You don't get to see your neighbors very often. You're certainly out there walking. So, and when you go to the grocery store, 15, 18 miles, if you live in some of these smaller towns. Lancaster had grocery stores, Gorham had grocery stores on both ends. The two towns in the middle, you're lucky if you had a gas station, which we did, in each of those towns. Or you run out of gas in the old cars that got 8 miles to the gallon. You run out of gas before you get down to the station. Fortunately, there's a station in town. Of course, they had a little monopoly going too. At any rate, up here, the top of this category, where my pointer is this farm right here. It's on the table. This is the painting I did when I was 12 years old. This is my grandfather Moreau, who was here with my grandmother with their 7 children. This was my mother's farm. This is my mother here at 10 years old in 1926. This farm and these buildings, nobody out of all of these families ever went down into the fields to take an image of this farm. Everybody took pictures on the front porch of Grandma and Grandpa, or out in front if we had a bunch of cousins come to visit on a Sunday. Nobody has ever taken an image of that farm. That is the only image in existence. So now I'm looking for a historical society to put that painting in to save it, because that's history up north. That farm, as you see it here with the building, the outhouse, big improvement. Remember I told you our outhouse over here was 75 feet up near the woods. That outhouse, right there, the end of the woodshed. What a big difference. You go out to the kitchen, cut through the woodshed, you're in the outhouse. No rain, no snow. I mean, this is progress, right? And besides that, it was a 2-seater. So then 2 of us kids could go out there and read the Sears catalog both together. It was a time for us. It was a time. Because there was no electricity, no running water, my uncle, at this point when I was 10, he won a little calf at the local grain store in Lancaster. He had 4 or 5 cows that he milked every day. He worked in a paper mill over in Gilman, Vermont. But he'd be there twice a day to milk the cows, watch over Grandma and Grandpa, paint the fields in the summertime, that kind of stuff. And he won this little calf, but he didn't have any sons. He said, Fred, I'm going to give you this calf. You're 11 years old now, and that will be your 4-H project. And he said, if you stay with it, in a couple of years, you will have a little Guernsey cow that then you can milk, because he would show me how to milk by hand. Then you can milk and supply milk for Grandma and Grandpa and cream. Grandma can make cottage cheese. All of those things happen because that little calf will be a cow. I was shown how that happens at age 11. But at any rate, country living. Today, if you look real close in this picture, when you get up there, you'll see I've drawn a line in there. There's a big stone there, with a hole about this big. And that was the stone that covered the well out in the front yard of Grandma Monroe's house, because it didn't have running water. It wasn't even a pump in the kitchen. You had to go out. And this next black and white picture right here, I took in 1961. And that is my grandfather. That's your mother. That's the way you live. That gentleman lived to be 102. He never saw the inside of a hospital until after he was 90 years old. And that's in Jefferson. Right here is another spot. This is the Wombat Golf Course. That's in Jefferson. And if you've gone out to Sanders Village, you've gone by the Wombat Golf Course. The big hotel that was there burned down. My My brother and I, 10 and 12, 11 and 12, we caddied on that golf course. Because you had people staying in that hotel that came up from Boston, or Hartford, or Manchester, or Concord. Up in the summertime, they wanted to be right up in the White Mountains. They wanted to play their golf. There was one, and as a 12-year-old, I wasn't 5 feet tall. And carrying 2 golf bags. Fortunately, they weren't as big as they are today because these golf bags today weigh more than I do. In fact, I think most do too. But once again, the beauty of presidential range all the way around that golf course. Another site is in Lancaster, where I went to high school before I left there and came down to Holyoke, Mass. When I was 15 in my junior year. And I went from the high school that probably had 30 kids in the senior class to the senior class in Holyoke that had just under 300. Talk about a change. And living in the city after living up there. At any rate, right there is the Rialto Theater. Every Saturday, we had to drive from a little 3-room house in Randolph over through Jefferson, over to Lancaster. Why? Because that's shopping night. You go to the grocery store. Because you don't run that trip every day to pick up a loaf of bread or whatever. That's not going to work. So shopping night was Saturday night, you stocked up for a week. By next Friday, if you were short of meat, you may have peanut butter and jelly, whatever. Anyway, this theater, this Rialto Theater, while Mom and Dad went shopping, we 3 kids got to go to the theater to see Roy Rogers and Bill Evans and Gene Tom Mix, plus whatever movies. And the cost to go to that theater, 5 cents. That theater, and I just took this picture less than a month ago, that theater is still operating today. So if you go up there, and if you look at that real close, you'll see the marquee there. And back when my brother and I, and my mother and my sister, we eventually moved off of my grandfather's farm into Lancaster for about a year and a half. And my brother was the usher in that theater, and he also changed all the letters on the marquee. That was his job. And that's right here on Main Street in Lancaster. As you can see that, it's a big metropolis compared to the main road going through Randolph and Jefferson. But still not a big area. Next, you'll see a monument here in Lancaster. And I enlarged that sign right there. And you need to read it. And here's a wolf. Bronze statue on top of that stone. And this was created at the 150th centennial of Lancaster in 1913 to honor the people who saved Lancaster from the wilderness. That's the purpose of that movement. This next picture this is Coas County in northern New Hampshire. It's actually 80 miles to the Canadian border. And Lancaster was the county seat. And the county courthouse is there. But this particular house, which is now a museum, was the first 2-story dwelling in all of Coas County, built in 1864. I'm not going to read you all this lineage down here because it's too much. I'll let you come up and see it yourself. Coas County, the Presidential Range, and Mount Washington, which is our highest point in the east, at 6,288 feet. And I caution you, if you want to take a ride up to the top of Mount Washington in your car, or take the Railway up, don't wear shorts and flip-flops in September. Because you freeze your backside on time. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Fred.
You're certainly welcome. And I think Joe has a couple of words for us.
I know, I love my mountains. I like nature, and I like animals, but less people is better. It's great to go up, and when I go to New Hampshire, Vermont, it's just nice to see what nature is like, the farms and the hills. It's so quiet. That's what I like about it. It's quiet. You don't have to be down this area here. So, thank you for that. Is there anything else that,
I think Joe's got something to say over there.
I'd like to have a picture taken with the North County Sheriff. We're gonna have one of our real estate people who come up all the time. Would you come up, please? And is Kathy still here?
Now, Sharon,
But we have the police chief here and police officers too.
Well, the chief. I'm not gonna picture of that.
I just came for the cake.
Never went away from the police chief.
You guys come on up too.
Joe.